I'm curious, what is the difference between toxic love and conscious love? Because I feel like a lot of people get into relationships based on a wound, and it causes, toxic chemicals that might feel like love. But then they unwind after 6 months, a year, 2 years, and it feels like then it's not conscious love. That they got into it from a chemical romance, wounded, as opposed to conscious healing, integrating that into in a relationship. What is the difference between toxic love and conscious love?
Toxic love is where both people are working independently to use the relationship to serve their own needs. That's toxic love. And conscious love is where both people independently take care of themselves so they can bring their best self to each other. And where this often goes wrong is that toxic love turns into a competition. Toxic love now is who's doing more for each other, who gives more love to each other, who does more work around the house. You turn the whole thing into a competition, which is not teamwork. And conscious love is not saying you're the selfless one, it's you're making agreements. I think that's the mistake that love was constantly, conscious love was always like, be selfless, love more than the other person, give more. That's not healthy either. What's healthy is we're actually going to create boundaries. We're actually going to create agreements. We're actually going to create principles. We're going to create rules. The reason why I call the book 8 Rules of Love is my hope that it will inspire other couples to create their own list of rules in their own relationship. A conscious relationship is one that is built on a foundation of healthy agreements.
Yes.
Toxic love is, it's interesting when you look at the word toxic as well.
Tell me.
So toxic love is when your trauma is the oxygen for your relationship, right? If you think about the word, like the idea that your trauma is what you're breathing into the relationship.
Gosh, that is so true.
Right? You're just breathing your trauma into the relationship. So you bring all your baggage, all your insecurities, and you're somehow expecting the other person to inhale it all and then figure out how to respond and react.
Right.
Whereas a conscious relationship is saying that I have these things, I'm trying to heal them, I'm going to make my partner aware of what I'm healing because I'm not fully healed.
Yes.
And now that they're aware and I'm working on it, we can also work on it together. So I think we've also had this unhealthy idea of conscious love being you're fully healed and then you come. It's like, that's not true. It's a journey. And so, but the thing about the journey is, are you working on yourself? Have you communicated to your partner what you're working on so that they can be aware? And thirdly, have you found a way to get support? I had a friend whose partner was addicted to porn. And they came up to me and they were saying that their partner feels shameful and guilty and wants to work on it. And I said, you have two choices. You can either leave them because you don't believe them and this affects you negatively, which it was, or you can stay with them and support them through their journey because they want to change. It's not that you're forcing them to change.
And they're honest about it. They're coming to you about it. They're vulnerable.
They're vulnerable. They're open about it. They're honest about it. And what I found in that scenario was that that person was able to support their partner. Now they have a really healthy relationship. But the thing is that we can't also, a toxic relationship is also when you use someone's trauma against them. So someone's been vulnerable with you about what they're struggling with, and now you use it as ammunition in an argument to shoot them down.
Yeah. And
so when people are vulnerable with you, when they're honest with you, when they're transparent with you, don't use that against them because basically you're saying to them, don't be honest with me. And I think that's this really interesting thing. We all say, I want someone who's honest. But then when someone says something honest that's uncomfortable, we say, no, I don't want your honesty, or I don't like that. And I think you push the other person away.
Yes.
And so, yes, if they share something that's really not aligned with your values, of course you can leave and move on. But chances are, if they're opening up about a journey they're on, it's worth giving it an opportunity to support them if they're 100%. Serious about it.
I love your definition of toxic love versus conscious love. And when I was hearing you say this, I was thinking that conscious love is also wanting to take emotional responsibility and accountability for emotions, as opposed to saying, you made me feel this way. You said
Wow,
this. You didn't do
wow.
this. And it made me explode on you. It's having the emotional responsibility to manage it. And if you aren't good at managing it, saying, I take full accountability and I'm working on that healing journey. And I think that responsibility and accountability adds to the potential growth for conscious love.
I love that. That's such a great point. It's such a great question too, because you also realize that we have so many flawed views of conscious love too.
Yes.
And so people always think like, oh, toxic love, that's the worst. You could actually be doing pseudo-conscious love, and that's even worse sometimes.
What does that mean? Like a spiritual bypass to conscious love?
Yeah, or like you're practicing it in a really superficial way. Like it's conscious in the language and the way you talk about it, but you're doing unhealthy things.
Yes.
Like, for example, you could think you're in conscious love, but you can't deal with someone's honesty. You think you're in conscious love, but you don't feel comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. This superficial idea of conscious love becomes really practiced as a deeper love. So yeah, like we don't argue, but we avoid having uncomfortable conversations. Everything's always good, but I often go to sleep at night wondering what they're thinking, right? Like that's not conscious because it looks good. It's conscious because you're constantly working on it. I think we're so scared of accepting that something may need fixing because that means it's broken, but it's not broken. There's just parts to relook at.